G'day everyone and welcome to Inside Rugby with Mark. If you haven't been here before, my name is Mark. I'm a Kiwi rugby fan who's living here in beautiful Cancun in Mexico. And in this video I'm going to talk about the game between the Auckland Blues and the Canterbury Crusaders that was played in Auckland over the weekend. Yes, we're diving into a bit of Super Rugby in this video, so let's go for it. Hey, thanks very much for visiting my channel. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, welcome back. Great to have you here as always. And if you're a first timer here, well, check out my content, see if you like it. If you do, hit the subscribe button, stick around and give this video a bit of a thumbs up if you enjoy it as well. Well, as I said, I'm a Kiwi that's been living in Mexico for a while, and I actually left New Zealand over 40 years ago. So I do miss watching New Zealand domestic rugby live in New Zealand. And it's good to be able to catch up with the game again down under after the Six Nations campaign has finished. And I'm interested to know what you all thought of the Six Nations this year, so drop me a comment on that one below this video. So I decided this weekend to watch a couple of games, and one of the games I chose was to watch the Auckland Blues playing against the Canterbury Crusaders. An interesting fixture for me for this one because the Crusaders over the years have always had the domination over the Blues, particularly at Eden Park. And when you come to think of how much of a fortress that ground has become for the All Blacks over the years, it's a little bit strange that the Auckland Blues do not also enjoy that kind of dominance at the great Eden Park in Auckland, New Zealand. So it's going to be an interesting battle between Vern Cotter's Auckland Blues and Rob Penny's Canterbury Crusaders. I thought that Vern Cotter's team probably had it in their thoughts that they had a good opportunity for beating the Crusaders for the first time in 10 years at this ground. And that's right, the Crusaders have been dominant over the Auckland Blues over the years, and that's because Razor Robertson and his great team went on a rampaging victory I guess over many years for the Crusaders. That's all come to an end. A lot of retirements, a lot of people not playing for the Crusaders anymore. And of course, Razor Robertson moving on to the All Black coaching positions this year. So that's going to be really interesting. So Rob Penny's had a big task thrown on him to rebuild this Crusaders team and try and do the very best with the ingredients that he's got. And so far in this year's Super Rugby competition, that's proving to be a little bit difficult because coming into this game, they were 0 from 4 in terms of wins. And that's not something we're used to from the Crusaders. One big milestone coming up in this game, Patrick Tuipulotu, the All Black lock, was in with his 100th cap for the Auckland Blues this weekend, so a very good milestone for him. And as a result, he was running out onto the field before the rest of his players to get the accolades from the Eden Park crowd. Now the game got underway, and as expected, it was a pretty tight tussle. We had pretty poor conditions in Auckland. There was a lot of rain around. The ground was pretty wet and slippery, and that was definitely going to have an impact on the game. It didn't take too long for the scoreboard to be ticking over. In the 3rd minute, the Auckland Blues got a penalty through a Crusaders indiscretion at a breakdown. Stephen Perifetta, their number 10 for Auckland, stepped up and took the kick, and the Auckland Blues were off to a 3-0 lead just after 3 minutes in the game. So we saw an indiscretion in the 8th minute from the Auckland Blues forward Papali'i, the All Black flanker, and he was sent from the field into the yellow card territory, and that put the Auckland Blues down to 14 men. And then we had to wait about another 10 minutes before the Crusaders were on a good attacking phase, and again they won an indiscretion penalty from a breakdown. Hohepa stepped up and kicked the goal for the Crusaders. So after 18 minutes of the game, we were back to 3 points all. It was a pretty tight game at this stage. The conditions weren't really allowing for the game to open up, and I already started to realise that the Crusaders were going to be in a little bit of trouble in this game. Their line-out started off to be pretty shocking. Their calls didn't seem to be working, and they weren't changing this, so as the game went on, they kept making the same mistakes. On the other hand, the Auckland Blues were winning good line-out ball off the top of the line-out, and they were getting some pretty decent ball. They just weren't able to crack through the Crusaders' defence early on. And then in the 25th minute, the Auckland Blues went really close again with another rolling maul, and Riccatelli went over the line. We thought he'd scored a try, but he actually had dropped the ball. as we saw in the TMO review, so that try wasn't allowed. And Auckland were really putting a lot of pressure on the Crusaders at this stage, and in fact they were winning a lot of territory. They had a lot of possession as well, and they were really camped down in the Crusaders half, and this was putting a lot of pressure on the Crusaders. They were making a lot of tackles, and without winning sufficient ball, they were having a lot of trouble getting into this game, I thought. So Auckland kept the pressure on. In the 29th minute, they got a penalty opportunity again. Stephen Perifetta stepped up for the Blues. He got that one. So Auckland went out to, the Blues I should say, went out to a 6-3 lead after 29 minutes of the game. And it was a bit like an old-fashioned rugby game, this one. Wet conditions, difficult for both teams to open the ball up. They were trying to. And there was a lot of weapons in this game as well from both sides. They had a lot of good running backs, but they just weren't getting the opportunity in these particular conditions. But towards the end of the first half, we saw the rain stop. The weather started to look a little bit better, and I was hoping that this game was going to come to life in the last stages of the first half. So we got towards the end of the first half. In the 36th minute, the Crusaders got a penalty deep in the Blues territory. It was kickable by Hohepa. He got it over, and we're back to 6-all. So it was a bit of an arm wrestle as we got closer to half time. But it was all the Blues in the last couple of minutes of the first half. We saw a great run by Dalton Papali'i, who had obviously come back on after his yellow card time, and he took off down the field, connected with Forbes, who'd come on at fullback for Sullivan. And it was really looking like a different Blues team. They were looking to be expansive, and they were looking at cracking through the defense of the Crusaders. So as we headed right towards half time, it got very interesting because the Blues started to dominate this game. They got a penalty in the 42nd minute, which Perifetta got over. So the Blues went into the changing sheds at half time by 9 points to 6. I thought Rob Penny would have been very disappointed with the Crusaders' performance in the first half. There was a lot of mistakes on their side of the field. They gave away a lot of possession. They were ill-disciplined. Their line-out was terrible. And their scrum was starting to get ravaged as well by the Auckland Blues. So there wasn't much going right for the Crusaders in the first half. And this team that's having trouble getting some traction in this year's Super Rugby series really needed to watch the beginning of the second half, because I thought the Blues had finished that first half in very, very good fashion. Some standout players for me in that first half for the Blues were Riccatelli at hooker. He was playing really, really well. Mark Talia was looking dangerous in the back line. Whenever he tried to get the ball, he looked to be running and doing his normal jinking runs, which tried to evade various players at the same time. He was doing very well. And Lamb at number 13 was playing well. AJ Lamb, I thought he was looking dangerous as well whenever he got the ball. And definitely Forbes, when he came on in the dying minutes of the first half, I thought, wow, I've never seen this guy play before. And it looked like he was adding a little bit of interest to that Auckland backline. So I was interested to see how he would go in the second half. The Auckland forwards were doing the job in the first half. Tuipulotu played really, really well. Papali'i, when he did come back on the field after that yellow card, was playing well. And as a result of that, the Auckland Blues were winning at the breakdowns. They were doing well off the top of the lineouts, and they were securing a lot of balls. So I thought this was going to be very dangerous for the Crusaders in the second half. They needed to get their hands on the pill and see whether or not they could get through this Auckland defensive line. We had to wait and see. On the other hand, I think Vern Cotter would have been pretty happy with his team at half time. They didn't really capitalise on some of the opportunities they had. That Riccatelli drop ball over the line could have been a 7-pointer for them. It wasn't. But I thought he would have seen enough of the Blues' performance in that first half to be happy with the way they were going. They were handling the conditions better, I thought. And it was just a matter of time, I thought, that they went in for a try or two against this Crusaders' fragile-looking defensive line. So it was all to play for in the second half. 9-6 at half-time in favour of the Auckland Blues. So it exactly happened as I thought it would early in the second half. In fact, we only had to wait 2 minutes for the Auckland Blues to put a lot of pressure on the Crusaders. After 12 phases of play, the All Black prop forward Ofa Tuangafasi went over for a good try for the Blues, and that stretched their lead. Perifetta was able to get the conversion over, so immediately after half-time, the Blues had stepped out to 16 points to 6. A good lead and a deserved lead at that stage of the game. And then we only had to wait 3 more minutes before the Blues were in it again, and it was a very well-worked try. Their backs got into it, and AJ Lamb went over for a fantastic try to the Blues. So this game was really dominated by the Blues on each side of half-time. They put the pressure on, they went in with a scoreboard lead at half-time, then they came out and they scored back-to-back tries within the first 5 minutes of the second half, and you could tell that this was really going to put the pressure on the Crusaders, and it was going to be very, very difficult for them to come back. It was a great work try by the Auckland backline. Lamb looked very dangerous. He went over for that good try. It was converted by Perifetta, and all of a sudden the Auckland Blues were out to 23 points to 6, and the Crusaders were looking like they were running in quicksand. And for the next 5 minutes of the game, heading up to the 50-minute mark, it was all the Blues again. They were just putting lots and lots of pressure on the Crusaders. Their defence was having to do a lot of work, a lot of tackles, and it was only a matter of time, I thought, before their discipline fell off under this immense pressure the Blues were putting on them, and that's exactly what happened in the 51st minute of the game. A lot of Crusaders players were penalised, and as a result of that, we saw Sevu Reece, the All Black winger, go to the bin for 10 minutes. The referee probably had a choice of 5 or 6 Crusaders players that he could have picked to send off at that stage, but the Canterbury Crusaders defensive line was creaking. The Auckland Blues were putting a lot of pressure on, and something had to give, and it was their discipline. So they found it, they had a player in the bin, and they continued the game with 14 men. As the second half went on, we saw the Crusaders line out getting worse. They just weren't able to win a line out. The Auckland Blues were picking it off the top. But the thing that came out of this for me was that there was no leadership on the field for all the Crusaders. They weren't changing up their throws to the line out when they saw that it wasn't working with 5 men in the line out, and they didn't do anything to it. So they started losing more and more possession. 55 minutes into the game, and we saw another raid of attack from the Auckland Blues, but this time the Crusaders' defence was brilliant. They held out the Blues for a number of different phases of play, and they showed that they really put in a big defensive effort. So that was good to see from the Crusaders. They were out of the game as far as the scoreboard went at this stage. There was some time for them to get back into the game if they could get their hands on the ball, but they put in a great defensive effort which could have easily led to another Auckland Blues try. But that first 20 minutes of the second half, it was all the Auckland Blues. They had 81% of the possession, so that's how dominating they were. And they also spent 67% of the time in the Crusaders' territory. So it was one-way traffic in this game in the second half for the first quarter of the second half. We saw a lot of line breaks throughout this game as well for the Auckland Blues. They were really getting through. Clark was having a really good game on the wing for the Blues. He's come back looking pretty good this year. In fact, he's lost a little bit of weight, and I think as a result of that, he's being able to get around the field a little bit easier. But 34 missed tackles in the first 61 minutes of this game for the Crusaders, not a good statistic, and it just showed how dominant the Auckland backline was being in terms of being able to break through the Crusaders line. And in the 61st minute, they got another penalty. Perifetta got it over, so the points went out to 26 points to 6. And with still 19 minutes to go in the game, there was probably no way the Crusaders were going to get back into this game the way that they were playing. And I talked about Caleb Clark, and it was in the 65th minute that he did an amazing try-saving tackle when it looked like the Crusaders were in for a relatively easy try. Moore, their second 5'8", went over for a apparent try, but as he was diving to the line, we saw Caleb Clark come in with one arm, and he punched the ball out of Moor's hand as he was going down to put the ball down over the goal line. It was a fantastic try-saving tackle. If you haven't seen it, check it out online. It's a very, very good one indeed. So a good bit of defensive work by Caleb Clark. And it just showed that this Auckland team was really on the medal this weekend. They were working hard in defence when the Crusaders did get an opportunity, and they finished off their opportunities, particularly in the beginning of that second half. So I thought they were going pretty well. But the Crusaders, well, they just couldn't make it happen in this game. And despite that opportunity that went missing as well, they never looked like getting too close to the Blues line for the rest of the game. So that was it as far as scoring goes in this game. So it ended 26 points to 6 in favour of the Blues over the Crusaders. Their first win against the Crusaders in the last 19 games of this competition between the two teams. So an outstanding performance. And for Patrick Tuipulotu, on his 100th cap for the Auckland Blues. A great way to celebrate this weekend and getting a win over the Crusaders. And he was actually the only man in the Auckland team this weekend who was there 10 years ago when they bet the Crusaders at Eden Park as well. So a little bit of history there for Tuipulotu. I thought Riccatelli played well at hooker until he was reserved off late in the game. He looked very good. AJ Lamb was good in the backs for the Auckland Blues. Caleb Clark had a good game on the wing as well, and Forbes played really well when he came on just before half-time and for the remainder of the second half. He made a couple of really good runs in this game, and he's going to be someone I'm going to be keeping an eye out for the rest of the season because he looks like he's a very good player indeed. Mark Talia was good and busy in this game, looking for opportunities with the ball. It's something I like a lot about Mark Talia's play. He's not the biggest winger, he's very fast, very elusive, and he gets hungry looking for the ball, and he does those great little darting runs from the breakdown situation where it's very difficult for the inside defence to get their hands on him, and it creates a great opportunity for next phase plays for his team. And he does this as well for the All Blacks, and he was doing this for the Blues in the weekend, so a very good game from him. I think Tuanga Fussy had a good game as well. The All Black forward, of course, was playing well in this game for the Blues. And Hoskins Sotutu had a good game. He had a few problems in the first half with a couple of disciplinary issues, but then he came right. He had a couple of strong runs. He was big in defence on a couple of occasions. Took a couple of Crusaders players out when they were looking dangerous, and looked very good as well. So another player I'll be keeping my eye on for the remainder of the Super Rugby series, Hoskins Sotutu. The Blues won the second half in terms of points by 20 points to 0. It was a dominating performance by them in the second half. As I said, they came out and scored those back-to-back tries in the second half, and there was no way back for the Crusaders. On the Crusaders side, they look a despondent lot of players at the moment, and we need to really see what Rob Penny's going to do with this team, because hard task coming in after Razor Robertson's had such great success with this Crusaders team. Not this particular team, of course, and that's one of the challenges that Rob Penny has. He's rebuilding this team and trying to take this young team forward, and finding a lot of challenges. I'm sure they'll get back into their mojo soon, and they only need to win a game and they could go on a bit of a winning spree, but that win looks a long way off at the moment. They haven't been playing very well at all. Leadership seems to be their biggest problem. They've got no one really guiding them around the field, and when you lose someone like Sam Whitelock, and Barrett wasn't playing either this weekend, there's a lot of challenges for this Crusaders team as they go forward. So let's take a quick look at the Super Rugby ladder after round 5 of this year's competition, and we've got the Hurricanes at the top and then the Chiefs in second place. The Blues, as a result of this win against the Crusaders this weekend, move up to position number 4, so they're doing well this season under Vern Cotter. And then look at the Crusaders down there in 12th and last position with no wins from 5 games so far in this year's competition, something we're very unused to seeing from a Canterbury Crusaders team. So let's see how that goes over the next few weeks. So there you go, there's my take on the game between the Blues and the Crusaders this weekend. If you did watch it, let me know in the comments below what you thought of the game. Anybody stand out for you that I may not have mentioned in this video? I'd love to hear from you in the video. Okay, well that's it for this one. I'm going to be back again really soon with some more video content right here on Inside Rugby. Don't forget, if you want to be part of our global community right here on Inside Rugby, the best way to do that is hit the subscribe button, give this video a bit of a thumbs up and a like, and I'll see you again really soon from here in beautiful Cancun in Mexico. Until next time, stay safe, stay well everyone, and it's time to say bye for now.